Hello and welcome to the Fatu Network News Review today, 29th April 2019. My name is Omar Wali. We spoke to the chairman of the Independent Electoral Commission, Aliu Mamorinjai, about the diasporans, and the Gambia Police Force Public Relations Officer update journalists about the recent cattle theft within the Kanifi municipality. But I will start with the papers, and we will also speak to people outside the country about the remarks made by the Vice President, Dr. Aissatou Toure, that whoever go against President Barrow, or whoever oppose President Barrow, means going against God. But before all that, I will start with the standard. And Jaju dismisses Sabali Spy's claim. Sekou B. Jaju, the former employee of Gamstar Insurance and resident of Sukuta, who was mentioned by Sana Sabali as suspected agents planted to spy on him, has reacted to the former AFPRC Junta Vice Chairman's comment. In a write-up shared with the Standard newspaper, Jaju said Sana Sabali was introduced to him by Musa B. Suso, say around 2003, when both were convicted at Mile 2 Central Prison. And this was a time when he said, I used to provide Musa B. Suso, who is a childhood friend, and a friend with a regular provision such as newspapers, and at times pay him a visit at the request whenever he sends him a gate pass, Jaju told the Standard newspaper. And he went on to say that being my best friend and a childhood friend, for that matter, I stood by him all the time, especially in this difficult moment of need. One of my visits to him, Musa, Jaju said, he spoke to him broadly about Sana Sabali and his desire to study finance when he is released, and he need to give him support if he can. That's what the statement said by the Mr. Jaju to the Standard newspaper. Opposing Barrow means going against UDP. The Vice President, Dr. Aissatou Toure, has said that President Adama Barrow is chosen by God, and whoever refuses to follow him is disobeying God. Addressing a large crowd from Lower River region at the State House on Saturday, VP Toure said, when God is choosing or removing leaders, he doesn't consult anyone. Barrow stands for the truth, and God has always stands by Barrow stands for the truth, and God always stands by those who stand for the truth. The international community has checked this country and asserted that he is on the right track, and that they have also established that he is not abusing his powers. Everything is transparent and people are going about their businesses uninterrupted. Barrow stands for the truth, and he is supporting women of this country. Madam Toure said President Barrow is 100% behind Gambian women and urged her fellow women to put their weight behind him. And the GMC, the Gambia Moral Congress, demands UDP's Almame Fandintal to apologize. The Gambia Moral Congress has slammed a recent comment by the United Democratic Party spokesperson Almame Tal and demand his immediate apology. The Gambia Moral Congress described the statement against the establishment as reckless. Mr. Tal, in a recent interview with the Gambian Talents Promotion, claimed that the GMC is a one-man party, and who else? It's a one-man party, and asked who else was in the party aside from my Ahmed Fati. The combo calls for a ban on unilateral sales of communal land. The Combo Yiriwa Kafo yesterday convened a meeting in New Yundum to call on government to ban the allocation of communal land to private investors without the consent of the owners. According to Combo Yiriwa Kafo, the authorities should consider the demand to mitigate or avert potential future conflict and ecological habitual disaster. And the Kafo also asks the ruling of the courts to appeal in Gunjur case be delivered as soon as possible, as well as the reconciling of the two communities of Gunjur and Berending through all legal means, including their traditional methods of conflict resolution. And over 200 jobs under threat as Banjul breweries threaten to close down. The more than 200 jobs will be axed unless government reverse the heavy tax levied on Banjul Breweries Limited. The Standard newspaper has been reliably informed. The Standard visited the Banjul Breweries premises and only to produce and the countries only produce beer and other alcohols and non-alcoholic drinks to talk of the staff. According to the staff, some of them with over 20 years experience and unintended impact on the new domestic excise tax imposed on the company by the Gambia government as part of the tax reform measures in 2019 is disastrous and killing the business. That's all we have on the Standard. And on the Point newspaper, major shake-up in the Gambia's diplomatic service. At least 21 diplomats over the past weekend have been notified and recalled as their contract terms are coming to an end, according to sources close to the Point newspaper. A 2 years contract for several of the country's ambassadors and their diplomats are due to expire on the 17th of May 2019. The officials concerned, who were appointed on the 16th of May 2017, have all been notified and recalled, the source said. And that's all we have for you on the Point newspaper. I'll now turn to my guest and talk about the statement made by the Vice President, Dr. Aissatou Toure, that opposing President Barrow means going against God. And I have someone on the line now. Hello? With me now I have Fatoumata Rahman Koka. Fatoumata, thank you so much for your time.
It's okay, Omar. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
I'm fine, fine. Thank you. Good afternoon to your viewers.
Thank you. I know you are currently in Sweden, but in reference to what the Vice President said, that opposing President Barrow means going against God. What is your take on this?
Omar, it depends because we can look at it in two different angles. Okay. It depends on how she portrayed that one. And I will start by saying that if what we saw on the papers today is for real and it's not just to attract attention, then the Vice President has got our attention right now. And I stand to question her beliefs as a Vice President. Being a highly educated person, she has to remember that being educated comes with values, integrity, etiquette, morals, and being able to serve a purpose. So for me, the way I see it, by serving a purpose is to guide that president right now, tell him the truth and stop the praise singing and help him towards national development.
So as far as we are concerned, the Vice President is praise singing, is not putting the president on the right footing.
I don't think so, Omar. It's sad to say, Omar, but a statement like that can mislead the president and can lead him to dictatorship, as far as I know. If he can't handle his emotions, because come on, Omar, we have seen what's been going on lately, all these rallies and all that. We have seen the president feel very comfortable lately, thinking that he has all the support and power he needs, which is making him throw shades in every gathering. So the Vice President and the people around him should be very careful, very, very careful.
Who do you hold responsible for all this? Like you talk about the rallies in the country recently and so on, and the president also throwing shades on people.
Who else can you hold responsible apart from the president? Because I cannot, before, Omar, we have all seen that. I mean, we all supported the president. We still support the president because Barrow is a Barrow, whether we like it or not. He's the president of the Gambia. And people have tried in, all different types of ways to, try to advise him freely or even, paid to advise him. And he's not listening to anyone. So I can't blame anybody but himself. I can only blame him because it's like he's not listening to people at all.
Finally, what will be your final? I know you are busy. Finally, what will be your final message?
I'll go back to the Vice President. I think she has to be very careful and not to be used as a campaign tool, and realize that in as much as she has supporters, she has strong critics, Omar. that say that she has failed in every task that she was given, apart from being an activist against FGM. So my best advice for her is to focus on some of the good areas that she has been doing well, and towards helping the president into, developing the country for her legacy. Because this is not about the president. It is about her. She has to work on her legacy. And that's what these people fail to realize most of the time, Omar. So she has to be very careful, because we don't want her to associate herself into something like this, because it looks like they've already started the campaign before anything has already started. Sorry to say that.
All right. Thank you so much, Fatmata, for your time.
And Omar, I will add on.
Okay.
I will not be surprised if the vice president comes out to say that she was misquoted, and she meant something completely different to what we think. Because sometimes the way things come out can be different to what you say. So I'm expecting her to come out and make a clarification there. And thanks for inviting me.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Well, that is Fatmata Rahman Koka there in Sweden. I have another person on the line now via Skype. Hello.
Yeah, hello, Omar.
Sidially, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome, as always. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good, good, good.
So, as you know, during a meeting on Saturday at State House, the Vice President, Isatou Toure, said opposing President Barrow means going against God. What do you understand from this statement?
Omar, initially when I read about this, because to be honest, I didn't listen to the audio message myself. I said, no, this can't be true. But as the day went by, I saw a lot of people, people wrote about it on social media, and I said, wow, this must be something that Dr. Isatou Toure said. Omar, this is disturbing. It is embarrassing. It is something that we should take seriously as a nation, because this lady is our number 2 today, irrespective of whatever political affiliations. She is the vice president of the country, and also she is a PhD holder in her own right. So if we can have the country's number 2 say statements like this when school children are listening, the future leaders are listening, we are actually embodying what we call psychophancy 101, because there's nothing more of a psychophant statement than this. How can somebody in this day and age say that if you oppose the president, you're opposing God? So in effect, what the vice president is saying, there should not be any opposition party in the country, Omar. We should have all the opposition parties scrapped. There should not be democracy. This is a threat to democracy, Omar. If you look at the statement in its wider context, it is a threat to our democracy. And I would add, I think the vice president should actually withdraw this statement in the interest of, because this is going to be, look, we are a democratic nation now. We can just say we're out of dictatorship. But if Jammeh were to say this, or Isatou Toure were to say this, then we would have been all over the place. But this is a threat to our democracy, because you cannot come out as the country's number 2 to say that we know Gambia is a highly religious society with predominantly a Muslim nation. Some people will say that, okay, the vice president said it, even though nobody's going to take this seriously, because number 1, Dr. Toure herself should look at herself in the mirror and said, how did President Barrow come to power? President Barrow was in opposition to Jammeh, and that's how landed him to the presidency. Macky Sall was in the opposition, opposed Ablaye Wade, and that landed Macky Sall into the presidency. So we have seen people who are in the opposition. So this statement is completely out of bound, out of context, totally embarrassing, and I would call on the vice president to withdraw this statement and apologize to the Gambian people. This is ridiculous. We can't have our vice president. That's what she wants to keep her job. Omar, the whole situation is, I blame the president for this. You see, the president is the one who has said, if nobody supports him, you will be dropped off the bus. And this is what is happening now. All the cabinet ministers coming out showing loyalty in a very ridiculous manner. The other day, I know we are not talking about this, but Ibrahim Osila, I watched his video. I couldn't believe my ears. I couldn't believe my ears. Here, Ibrahim Osila, the man that people had utmost respect for in the diaspora, look at the way he's speaking, because they are all trying to preserve their jobs, Omar. Job security is what is number 1 in this cabinet, because he has removed the people that he thinks are not supporting him. So all these ministers now, Omar, what they have to do is to sing the praises of the president and come out, look, Dr. Njoguba said similar crazy statement when Yahya Jammeh was there. He wanted Jammeh to live for 900 years. Why can't we get out of this bubble? And when are we going to get out of this bubble as a nation, Omar? Why we are a serious nation? Let's not make our country laughing stock. If our leaders look, all these cabinet ministers, they are becoming, they're really, some of these utterances are becoming a disgrace to our nation. And I think our school children will not be proud of them. Dr. Aissatou Touré, of all people, Omar, she should apologize. And look, let's remember on the 4th of November, 2016, Omar, is the same Dr. Aissatou Touré. If we go to the video on 2016, Dr. Aissatou Touré made an embarrassing press conference leading to the coalition. These audios are there on YouTube, and because he has a disagreement with the coalition, she went out of bounds as well. And she made, a press conference that disappointed a whole lot of Gambians. People forgave her when she joined the coalition. And now she is vice president just to secure that position. She's coming out with ridiculous statements like this.
Okay,
I'm totally embarrassed and lost for words.
Okay,
Thank
you are embarrassed rather, you lost words and whatever you call. But are you not looking at the wrong side of the telescope? Just 2017 here, Usainu Dabo called President Barrow Moses. What is the difference? And somebody saying going against him, opposing him, when your party leader himself said, he described.
Omar, look. The honorable, our party leader saying that he's Moses. He didn't say that if anybody opposes President Barrow, then you're opposing God. So they are contextually, the two are different.
Yeah, but it's the same person. It doesn't matter whether opposing God, but you cannot put a sitting president, elected by people, and put him on the same foot like
Omar, that was a metaphor. That was a metaphor. You know that. You don't know. That was a metaphorical statement. All right. But this one, what the current vice president implied is, if anybody goes against him, you are going against God. So the two are contextually. I don't want to give them meaning. That's a metaphor. Okay, you can give metaphorical statement and said, oh, the president is like. People come out with expressions, yes. But literally, you cannot compare the two statements, Omar.
Okay, you cannot compare the two. You talk about people like Ibrahim Silla. Why are you so irate under the collar, if I may ask, about Dr. Touré? I said, why are you so worried about Ibrahim Silla and seeing he delivering a statement at State House on Saturday?
Well, Ibrahim Silla said statements that I am hugely disappointed with myself. And I'm sure Ibrahim Silla may be listening to this interview because I spoke to Ibrahim Silla at personal level, at private levels, and I'm not going to divulge those conversations here. But he knows what he discussed with me at private level, and I'm not going to divulge here. So for him to come out and make ridiculous statements like this, like some of the things that he said, Turubado. You know what Turubado means in Mandinka. Turubado. Again, these are undemocratic, statements. This is a democratic government. You don't try to describe a democratic government as turbado. You know what I mean? Something that is going to come. If anybody stands our way, we will. These are not democratic statements, Omar. We expect somebody, a highly intelligent person, a very educated person like Ibrahim Silla with vast experience in the media fraternity, to come out and make statements that people, when they listen to, people will be proud of. You don't try to impress your leader, your boss, to the extent that you will, taint your legacy by statement. Because statements like this, just like today, we can remember what Dr. Njoguba said. How can he pray for Jammeh to live for 900 years? And people will look and say, Ibrahim Silla should not make things like this. Ibrahim Silla should not statement like this. You can support the president. It's his democratic right to support whoever he wants to support. I have no qualms about that. And I don't think anybody should have qualms about that. But look, Ibrahim should measure his statements. The other time he also came heavily on social media, saying that people should be social media. But Ibrahim himself was using the same social media when he fought against Jammeh. He was using the online radios in the diaspora. He was almost under a diaspora. At that time, I listened to one of his audios, and he was telling President Barrow, if you people allow Jammeh to leave the soils of Gambia, he said he himself he may lead an uprising against Barrow at the time. He was so upset. And I listened to that audio. But today, Ibrahim is a different man altogether. And I don't have any problem in him supporting President Barrow, also in his loyalty to President Barrow. Probably he has his reasons, but he should be careful. They should all be careful.
Someone somewhere might say you might be disappointed, not because of the statements or remarks made by Ibrahim Silla, But you have a feeling that he's deserting your party, the United Democratic Party.
Well, I have to be honest because Ibrahim, look, yesterday, I think it was Pate PJ or Nana Maketa who shared Ibrahim's interview with Fatu Toure on Kerfatu, right? We all heard what Ibrahim said during the interview, and it's in complete contradiction to what Ibrahim said at State House. So Ibrahim is speaking from different sides of his mouth. Ibrahim himself said he was a bona fide UDP, and he would be 100% forever loyal to the UDP leader, Usain Odabo. But today, Ibrahim, these utterances are at complete variance. So something has changed. So obviously, people have right to be disappointed. But again, I will respect Ibrahim Sila's democratic right to move to wherever he wants to go. I'm a Democrat. I don't mind Ibrahim Sila coming out to say, oh, I'm going to join President Barrow's youth movement, for example. I know he didn't say that. I'm just making that as an example. But I will respect that. But to say that people would not be disappointed. Omar, if I talk to you on occasional basis, and I tell you stuff, then privately, but publicly you hear Sidially saying something different, wouldn't you be disappointed? You would be. This is not, it's human nature. The man has said he's a bona fide UDP member, and clearly right now the demarcation has been drawn between UDP and President Barrow. They are at loggerheads. Look, I just read your news, 21 diplomats their contracts been terminated. And I can tell you, greater percentage of those 21 diplomats are going to be UDP-affiliated diplomats. So because we know this. I discussed this on the UDP Online Bantaba. The President Barrow is going to purge the diplomatic service. I said it. And right now, the evidence has come out. He's going to get rid of anybody again. Because right now, if you want job security in the Barrow government, Ibrahim, what you do is come after UDP. Come after UDP. That's what then you will have. Ibrahim Sila right now would have job security. Dr. Sidially will have job security. Ahmad Ba has job security. If you don't go after UDP, you might be yanked out of the cabinet.
Many people said this is your making. You are the people who did not even allow people to express their views. Now that this man is there now, you turn out, he dropped some of your people from the boss, the vice president, the ministers, some ambassadors, and so on. Now you have taken, can't you take that with a pinch of salt and move on and allow?
So when you say we, are you referring to UDP supporters online? Or I want you to be exact.
Somebody like Sidially, who has been there supporting Barrow until when the relationship between Barrow and UDP turned otherwise.
Okay, look, Omar, I think we've heard this time and time again on social media, people reminding us, you are the very people who used to say Barrow is our Barrow. And I have always responded to these people. Yes, I won't regret, and I don't regret supporting President Barrow in the past. Look, what anybody would have done, what UDP supporters did, is human nature. President Barrow came from United Democratic Party. UDP, when 3 months in the office, 4 months in the office, when some people jump on the president about the electricity, we remember this group that protested at Westfield a few months into his presidency, and we said, no, this is not right. Any new leader needs to be given time. 3 months is too short, 6 months is much frosted. But UDP is one of the most democratic parties in the Gambia, I can say. People are very free in the UDP. Sometimes people will even go against, the aspirations of the UDP leader internally, because we have this internal democracy within the party. When I saw the president, the time I decided to drop myself off his boss was when he uttered that undemocratic statement at State House, saying that if anybody contests against him within UDP for flag bearership, then that tantamounts to coup d'etat. And I said, no. I mean, I'm supporting the wrong person here. I'm not going to support anybody with tenets of undemocratic culture. From that day, I decided I would no longer support President Barrow. Look, we were against him even when Usain Odabo was the vice president, remember. We changed our rhetoric even when this UDP minister. So nobody can come out and say, yes, because they dropped Usain Odabo from cabinet, that's why you went. So records are there that we went against President Barrow even when these people were in cabinet. And people can say, look, some people say we are the cause, we caused the rift between the president, but I think Usain Odabo himself debunked that when he was in Seattle. You heard what Usain Odabo said. He made the cause of the problem, President Barrow, showing him disrespect and trying to bully the party for them to take it. So I think that has put this to bed now. It has nothing to do with the UDP platforms or say Sidially or any other UDP support. I think Usainu Dabo has given us a fitting response on that, saying that is the president, the way he handled the whole situation, the president trying to, force the party to twist the party on the hands of the UDP executive so that he could become the flag bearer. Omar, I think we know the answer right now. The whole problem is President Barrow has disappointed the Gambian people. Look, he is a transitional leader. He committed himself to be a transitional leader. The audios are there, the videos are there, Omar. He was in Dakar when he was asked by the journalist whether he would walk ahead. He said no. He said he would not contest in 2021 election. So, but now the president is in State House. Kongol Diataje, Domorol Diataje, Chu Kongol Domota, President will do private jet la. The luxury of being a president, it has gone into his head, and he's now decided to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to forget about all the promise. And we know that President Barrow calls himself, I'm not trying to bring religion to this, but President Barrow calls himself a Muslim, and we know the seriousness of making a promise to the nation. President Barrow should rethink and not contest 2021 election. So that's the issue that we have with him. For me, there are other issues that I wouldn't support him. I don't see that he is a competent leader, personally. I don't think he has what it takes to lead our nation. President Barrow doesn't have the intellectual capacity to lead the Gambia. I'm going to say this. I have said it before. He doesn't have it. This man, I have said it, doesn't even understand the NDP. He doesn't understand the intricacies of the NDP. When you ask him, invite him for an interview, Omar. Have a one-to-one with President Barrow and ask him specifically about the NDP. He wouldn't be able to explain to you what the NDP means. He's just talking about the NDP just for the sake of it, but he doesn't understand. He doesn't have a clue what the NDP is.
So, is that not the failure of leadership in UDP, knowing that he doesn't know, he's clueless, like you always said, he doesn't know all this, yet you choose him to lead the coalition when there are other competent people that can move this country? Because the idea was not only to get rid of Jammeh, but to take this country another level, because as many will say, this country has been backpedaling for 20 years. It was not moving, and you decided, among all the people, you know that he doesn't have the intellectual capacity, yet you choose him to lead the coalition.
Well, Omar, we all remember what happened leading to that selection process in November in 2016. All of us were in a desperate situation. It doesn't matter whether it's UDP or PDI or whatever. A lot of Gambians used to say we just want to remove Jammeh. At the level of the UDP, you know what happened. The Lawyer Usainu Dabo and his entire executive were incarcerated in jail, wrongfully incarcerated in prisons. And that took a big chunk of quality leadership out of the UDP. So UDP was faced with a situation where we had to do with what was available. President Barrow obviously was the deputy treasurer of the UDP, and obviously UDP is the Democratic Party. He got rights to contest, and he contested. He won through the Democratic Party. At that time, I think it was out of desperation, because we thought, look, we could manage with anybody leading the nation through the transition period, Omar, because we never thought this guy is going to become, would have an ambition to say, okay, I want to lead for the second term presidency. So we said, okay, let's get this out of the situation, get Jammeh out. President Barrow support him, because be it that he lacks the intellectual capacity, as he himself said, look, this is not my words. The president himself said he doesn't have experience in administration, but he would rely on his administration. But look, he made the bad decision, having multiple of advisors who also lack intellectual capacity. I have said this, apart from his Secretary General and Honorable Maifati, the team of advisors around the president lack intellectual capacity, all of them. Apart from Maifati, he's got intellectual capacity. If he wants to be honest and give the president advice, he's an intelligent guy. He knows what he's doing, and I will give that to him. His Secretary General, Ibrahim O. Kamara, has the intellectual capacity, but all these multiple advisors around the president don't have intellectual capacity, just like the president himself. So that's where he put himself in a mess. And he's putting these people in this position because of sycophancy. Now we have Dr. Aissatou Touré, who is a PhD holder, making such ridiculous statements. I have lost faith in her completely. I lost faith in her in November 2016 when she made that disappointingly ridiculous press conference. We forgave her. But now she needs to apologize to the Gambian people for making this statement.
Okay, before finishing, I just want us to clear this thing, because like most of the time people said because they were desperate for Jammeh to go. If you remember, if you live in East Africa, in Kenya, there were similar things there when they tried to remove Daniel Arap Moi. And the Rainbow Coalition was put together. But the intention was not only get rid of Daniel Arap Moi, but also to move Kenya forward. A new president came, and eventually Kenya is the East Africa's economic powerhouse. That things, don't you think such things would be put into consideration at the time?
Well, it could have been, it should have been, I agree with you. And I'm not going to completely absolve UDP out of whatever is happening now. Or sometimes internally, we would also say, I talked to some of the UDP supporters privately, and they would say, well, we made a mistake, UDP made a mistake. But I said, look, well, we could look in retrospect to say that we could have done better. But I interviewed Amadou Kora on UDP Online Bantaba some time ago, and Amadou Kora said, the circumstance in which they selected President Barrow was purely based on him being an executive member and being the most senior in the executive. And can you imagine, President Barrow reportedly told Amadou Kora, if they had selected any other person, that person would disappoint UDP, but he would not disappoint UDP. This came from the president. So I was like baffled. So the president could say this, and now he himself turned around to now ridicule the man he calls his father, the man he campaigned using Ousainou Darboe's name. That evidence is out there. He didn't campaign using Dr. Aïssatou Touré's name. He didn't campaign using Ahmad Ba's name, or Mai Fati, or Henry Gomez. He campaigned using Ousainou Darboe and the UDP supporters. Now he has got what he wants, and he said, well, I don't care. I'll move on. But just to answer your question, I'm not going to say completely UDP should be absolved 100% from it, because we have to take ownership. UDP should take ownership. President Barrow, yes, rightly, he came from UDP. And I'm not going to be disingenuous to say that, oh, we will not at least take some ownership of it. But I would say in the bigger scheme of things, it was purely circumstantial, Omar.
Okay, finally, before you go, you talk about, because he's part of UDP, many people have believed that he will not disappoint. But human beings change. Let me tell you this story. One Pope, John Paul wants to be Pope. And they asked him, what will you do for the world if you become Pope? And he told them, I will make sure that nobody goes to bed hungry. He became Pope, and they asked him, you are Pope 2 years into this job now, hundreds of millions of people are going to bed hungry, even in Italy, even outside Italy. And he told them at the time I was outside looking inside. Now I'm inside looking outside. Yeah. Similar thing happened. So politicians, like they say, they are all the same. They promise to build bridges even where there is no river. So is it not that part of your problem again once more?
Omar, I will answer that in a very simple way. Right. Omar, there are politicians that are corrupt. Well, does that mean that if you're a politician, you will be corrupt? No. There are people who are into wrongdoings. There are people who are in drug peddling. Does that mean that just because somebody is into drug peddling, you will do it? No, what is wrong is wrong. And I'm not saying that people don't do it, people don't disappoint the nation, but President Barrow should look into ethics more and not look around and say, because somebody else did it, I will do it. No, if you want to live up with that, then obviously you will not be doing good for yourself. Is this legacy? And I think the president was pretty much talking about his legacy. I watched one of the interviews, I don't know whether it was with Fatou Touré of Ker Fatou. He said he wants to preserve his legacy. And within the shortest space of time, President Barrow has completely tainted his legacy. This man would have been remembered as a very respected president in the world, and he could have won a Nobel Peace Prize. If he decides to be a one-term president, go and peacefully retire, be remembered as a former president, go and enjoy the benefits of being president. He will be respected internationally. But he has completely tainted that. And even if President Barrow decides to change his mind in the last minute, I think he has lost the respect of a lot of Gambians. Certainly someone like me, I used to, hold him high. And I remember when Dr. Caesar said he lacks intellectual pedigree, we said, well, we know he doesn't have that intellectual capacity. But we said, well, let's give him a chance. He's a one-term presidency, but now, well, I wonder whether I think a lot of people are saying that what Dr. Caesar said was right about the president.
This is what the Mandinkas will say. Danko dorong, yajame buje.
Ha, danko dorong yajame buje. Wole muta Omar, but I feel like dunkan dinko kono because nying power dunda kungo kono right now. But one thing we should do is we should not allow to have look. Mbenyum fola mo kana miracle nka president nka jutu walale. Tonya mu tonya to Omar nte bi man journalism no ko ite ya lon nyam ite ya karande ya long ninte nyante te la respect ko dile lale momo ale lono men de la respect president o anyantalo nte fonka wonda la president baroka cabinet o preside nyadile because this man doesn't understand the policies. How can he lead cabinet proceedings? He needs to understand issues. Some of the things abetarla sirinjele rek abafula yesa he wouldn't understand them. Omar, I'm being serious. The government machinery is so complex. I work in the cabinet policy papers. You know, manke communicate. You know, they are very complex matters. You need a lot of debriefings. But presidential intellectual capacity, where he will be able to successfully preside over these intricate policies, I understand. Ngole for NDP from I understand. Nia nyininga munana being president was it among interview one-to-one purely to explain to Gambians about NDP. Afaya ke. Mba challenge life. Any platform, I'll have own platform. Yeah, the details of the NDP. I have for Gambian, not just $1.7 billion. Well, it's not, it goes beyond that. The NDP itself should be explained to Gambians what is at stake, but the president doesn't understand these things. So, Anyanta Sondaleko, Amao Londo Sotopuka Gambia lead to a development economic status. Mafuko, you have to be highly educated. But then, at least, you have some basic understanding. President Wanata Janna Imol Malundi, Omar, another UK Janne, Abe hard talk learning Tony Blair. That day I shook my head. Malutale. Atata China, ya one China policy. Lama understand. Do we want to have this kind of president? Would you want to be proud to have this kind of president? Me alang na international stage. Ya question olla. Niko kucha ako durang. Ya understand? So we don't need this kind of president. Let him just step aside and allow people meli alonko ya londo soto ya ability soto. Let him go and retire peacefully and be a businessman.
All right. Yeah, this thing will go on and on and on. But before you go, let me just tell you this story. You know, a country like this, you know, in North Korea, I remember BBC Panorama program, they went there and they were asking kids, do you know America now? They said, yes, we now know the difference between America and the United States. So you're talking about one China policy. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Sidially.
No problem, Omar. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Viewers, we will not be able to bring all the articles, reports rather. Fadu Kamara will be here with the team. They'll be talking about the TRRC. So this is where I will stop and I'll allow Fadu Kamara to come with her team. And hello? Well, viewers, this is what we will stop. The Fatu is here with the team from there till tomorrow. Bye for now.
No, we were going to talk about something first, not yes. What was the first thing? Let me go.